All right, welcome to episode 9 of the Just a Moment Ago podcast. Today we do have Sam joining us again. So Sam, thank you for coming back.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me here again.
For sure. I'm really glad that you enjoyed yourself the first time and wanted to come back and continue to talk about addiction and the struggles that go along with it.
Yeah. It's kind of cool having people message you and be like, I seen your podcast.
For sure.
So, hey, everybody.
Right? So today we're actually going to be focusing more on just one topic, and we're going to discuss what it's like to have multiple baby daddies with substance issues. So, many families struggle with one or both parents having a substance issue, and it can definitely be very frustrating and painful for all that are involved.
Yep.
So one thing, I don't want to say names, so as we discuss, we'll use like A, B, C, and we'll just start with youngest to oldest with like A, B, C. Sound good? Because you have 3 kids, correct?
Yes.
Last time you were on, we touched on that you had 3 kids and you had 3 different baby daddies, and they all did have substance abuse.
Yes.
So with A, how did you meet him? And then...
So A is the oldest or the youngest?
Youngest. We'll start with the youngest. Or the firstborn is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so then the
A
oldest.
is the firstborn.
Okay.
C is the lastborn.
Perfect.
So what I want to do is, how did you meet them? And then what was it like in the beginning?
I met them through an ex-boyfriend's aunt. And it all started as just a party relationship. Going to the Mexican dances and Independence, doing lines of Coke off the back of the toilet and drinking. And it should have been a red flag way back then. But, when you're 17 years old, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about the older guy that's, partying. And
So how old was he when you met him? You were 17?
I was 17 and he was 20. He's 3 years older than me.
So, and where were you partying? Out in public or at private places?
Yep.
Or?
I had a fake ID since I was 16. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That'll definitely help get you around. Did you ever get caught with it?
I did. I did get caught with it once. And then I just got a different one.
Right. Were you just using other people's, or were you actually having them made?
Other people's.
Other people's.
And actually one of the second one that I got said that I was a 250-pound, 5'6" girl with blue eyes and blonde hair.
How'd you explain? Nobody looked close enough?
Nope. All they looked at was the birth date. So
then you were partying. So then how did it progress to having a child?
Well, it almost instantly started out that we just wanted to have a kid. I was only with him for about 5 months when I got pregnant.
Did he show any signs of that he was gonna be abusing anything?
Well, he drank, but
other than
he had a decent job, and so it wasn't, and it didn't seem like it was an issue. He wasn't drinking every day. He wasn't,
right,
abusing drugs
mm-hmm.
every day. It was more just a party thing. And our relationship was great in the beginning. It was awesome. He was super, super nice, super sweet. We did everything together. We were best friends. And then I got pregnant.
And then turned?
Everything switched. In the Mexican culture, the women, like, once they are yours, you are literally a possession. They own you. So once he got me pregnant, he felt that he was in all control of me.
So you weren't married though, were you?
Nope.
That's just their way, regardless of marriage or anything. If you have or get pregnant, you become their possession?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a really... So how did that make you feel? You're 17. We were 17 still?
Well,
Or
no,
was this later?
We started dating when I was 17, and then I got pregnant. I found out that I was pregnant 5 days after my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a birthday present.
And it was April Fool's Day, so
Oh.
try to tell your mom you're pregnant on April Fool's Day when you really are pregnant.
Right?
Not very
For
fun.
sure. You should have just probably waited till the next day.
Yeah, I probably should have, but I was pregnant and scared and wanted my mom.
I guess I can understand that for sure.
And then she felt terrible because she did not believe me and was like, shut up and leave.
You should have just been like, Ma, it was the 2nd. I told you on the 2nd it was real.
I did have to tell her again on the 2nd, so
That's
she knew
great.
it was real.
Yeah. So it was after you became pregnant, he completely switched. Did he get like verbally aggressive or physically, or
he
what
was just extremely controlling with whatever I did. He had gotten me a car, which we talked about in the last episode, that he sold on me when we had a fight.
Right.
I was we got an apartment, and we lived a few blocks down the road from my grandma's house. And then I had a girlfriend that had been my friend since middle school. She could come over and hang out. I could go to my grandma's. I could go to my dad's. And then there was another friend that stayed with me for a while and helped me take care of Xavier. And before I had Xavier, she stayed for a while too. But those were like the only people that I was allowed to talk to or have over, or, unless I was with him.
Right.
So
no guy friends at all.
Right. Like I had to cut ties with everybody pretty much, and that made that even more, that made it that much harder when I had to leave and,
Well, yeah. So was he was involved in the beginning, right?
Yep.
And then how long was he involved, and is he still involved?
He is not still involved. He has not been involved. Xavier's 3rd birthday was the last time that he seen him. Wow. Yeah, and he's 13 now, so 10 years. We were together for about 3 months after Xavier was born. So.
Was it because of how he was acting? Did you leave because of...
When he was arrested and did that with my car and everything, I cut ties. Well, I guess that's not actually true, because when Xavier was about 1, we tried getting back together for, I think it was a couple months, and that's when he got physically abusive with me and grabbed me by my sweatshirt hood from behind and like twisted so it was choking me. And I just turned around and clocked him, and he went right to the ground, and I grabbed my bags and walked right over top of him out the door.
Good.
So,
he deserves it.
Yeah.
Glad that you were able to overpower him and not have something bad happen that day,
Yeah.
It could have been worse.
And I mean, he had been sleeping with one of my friends and like raising her kids like his own, but wasn't having anything to do with his own kid. And that's why I was leaving. So...
And he thought that if he tried to grab you, or he could actually control you physically this time.
Yep. I mean, there were times before where he had manipulated me, so I'm sure he was just he was going to try to turn it around on her, and everything was her fault and blah, blah, blah.
But
so,
he had never physically done anything before that moment, though, right?
The only thing that he had ever done besides that is when he held me up against the wall by my throat when he got arrested. When we first broke up.
Oh, that's kind of a big thing, too.
So, but I was not choked out at that, the first time. The second time I was losing oxygen, so that's why I just clocked him.
Right.
So, and good thing I'm small, because otherwise I would not have been able to maneuver in that sweatshirt at all to get him, so.
That's a scary moment for sure.
Yeah.
So then he hasn't been back around at all since that point?
So when I gave custody to, those 10 years he has not. When I gave custody to my dad, he got in contact with my dad a couple of times to see him. And he showed up at Christmas once to give him presents. My dad just took the presents and wasn't going to let him see him. And he was in there with our family. So,
Right.
and then he had got a hold of me to see him for his 3rd birthday. But then, yep, I contacted him actually after the kids were, because he is in Mexico. If he tries to come back, he has to sit 10 years in federal prison. So, but I contacted him and told him that I had my kids taken away, and he asked me why, and I told him, and he told me that I was the biggest piece of shit he'd ever met and blocked me, and I haven't talked to him since.
Of course. You're the problem, right?
Yeah.
You did it all.
Mm-hmm.
Not him. Couldn't be his fault.
Right, exactly. I mean, who was the one feeding me Coke? And, on the...
Was that the first time you were introduced to Coke? When you were with him?
It was around the same time. I don't think it was with him. I'm pretty sure it was with my ex's aunt. That was the first time I used Coke. I mean, I had used pills before that and such, but...
So he has no contact now then. He's in Mexico. He can't even be a part of his life.
If he could, if he wanted to, but he doesn't make any effort, and there's not really any way for us to contact him without...
Right, like he would have to basically call, but I guess they're not really tapping your phone lines to try to catch him if he calls or something. It's not like that or anything. Right. So he could call and talk to him.
Right. Yep. He could.
But he's choosing to just live his life down there.
It's not like they don't have social media there. He could. He could find me.
He never tries to reach out at all.
Nope.
So he's just made his decision.
Well, and it's hard. It's really hard for me right now because it never was hard before because Xavier didn't care. But now, I go to the gas station and I'll be like, I'm going to the store to get milk. And he'll go, no, Mom, don't leave. So, and I know he's joking, but he's struggling.
You think that's actually stemming from the father? Like he thinks that you might leave?
Yeah, the joke. Dad went to get milk and didn't come back. Yep. Yeah. So that's his joke that he's making. Yeah, don't go get milk, Mom. Don't leave like my dad, never come back.
I gotcha.
But he knows that's. I mean, I've been through and put him through hell.
Right.
And there's no way I'm gonna give up on him.
No. Right. No, I've seen you with them. You're great. I mean, you guys have a great relationship from what I can see. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was rocky for a little while there, but as expected, I couldn't have expected him to not at least be upset with me, but our relationship now is really good.
Mm-hmm.
He talks to me, he never used to talk to me about anything.
Right,
he went to my aunt because he confided in my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And now he will come to me and talk to me about stuff, and he reminds me of things that had happened that may have hurt him, or
that
stuff
you
like
forgot
that.
About.
Yeah, because my memory is, especially during the time that I was using meth, between the period of August and November when they were taken. There's a lot of space in that span that I don't remember.
Right.
And like one time he told me that when we lived in Augusta, he had only taken a shower at that house 3 times. We lived there for 5 months.
Wow. Was there a reason or
just me not being there mentally, not paying attention to what.
And there was nobody else
Well, there was.
It just didn't happen like that. Like he just.
Yeah, I would tell him to take a shower, go get in the shower, but he would just pretend that he did.
Oh, okay. So you were thinking it, not seeing it, just assuming that he did what you said, and.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Emma was young. She was just a little over a year, or had just turned a year, actually, I think. Yep. And, So
you had both of them at that point, right?
Yep. After Emma came home from the hospital, then I got Xavier back. So, and this was in the period before I lost them the first time. I had her, she was young, so I had a lot more of my focus on her, and he's always been such a great kid. He is so independent.
He's
and
smart.
he's, oh yeah, really smart. So I guess I kind of pushed it off as like, he knows.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, it's like, you idiot. Like, why would you expect your kid to know at 7 years old, But
Hindsight's 2020 though.
it sure is.
It's
Yep.
easy to say you shouldn't expect, but at the time, if you weren't paying attention, you thought he did. You just figured he was smart and got it.
Yeah.
But he was probably just rebelling in a way too, like mom's not looking.
Yeah, and yep, and mom, I didn't have a relationship really with him around. When Emma was born, her dad wasn't there anymore. I was single. I had a relationship with someone for a while, but he never came around the kids,
Right. Let's
so,
actually, let's actually talk about that for a minute with Emma's father B.
Father B.
Father B.
Daddy B.
Yeah. So, where did you meet him?
I met him, I seen him walking down the street in town where my mom lived. Where I was living actually too at the time. And I would see him walk down the road all the time. And I was hanging out at a friend's house one day. We were all outside and he walked by and he knew one of the people that was there was actually my best friend at the time. And he walked up to him and said hi to him, and he asked him, who's that? And my buddy was like, that's mine. Stay away. Well, it wasn't like that at all with me and him, he just...
Mm-hmm.
And so then after that, he got my number. We started hanging out. It was over. And I didn't know when we first started dating that, one, he was a heroin addict before he had moved to Wisconsin. Two, that his sister also struggled with addiction. And three, that he had an alcohol problem. I didn't realize the problem in the beginning because, when you start a relationship with somebody, those kind of things sometimes you're blind to, So it wasn't until we were together for a few months that I didn't move in with him right away, but it wasn't long after because I was living with my cousin in her apartment, and the bedroom that I was staying in was so small that I only could sleep in a recliner.
Like a closet, basically?
It was technically a room, but had I put a twin-size bed in there, I wouldn't have been able to put anything else in there, and I'm a girl. I got stuff.
Right, for sure.
So we weren't living together, but it was about 3 months when I moved in with him, and he would go to work, and I would stay and clean the house and whatever while I started finding grocery bags of puke. Hidden, like, behind the laundry basket and his closet, and yes. What? Just weird, random places. He was bulimic.
Oh.
He was worried that the beer that he was drinking he was, bigger before and had lost weight by being an addict and didn't want to gain that all back by becoming an alcoholic.
Right.
Because he switched addictions when he came here.
Mm-hmm.
And, beer has carbs.
For
so
sure.
He would slam a 40, wait 15, 20 minutes. Well, he usually would slam a 40 and smoke a bowl at the same time. And he would take a hit off the bowl, slam as much of his drink as he could, and then let his hit out. And he would do it all while he was standing up so that he would get, a head rush too.
And then he would throw up after
And then he would go to the bathroom and throw up, or if, apparently in grocery bags. And then he would, tie him up, roll it up into a ball, put him in another bag.
So they didn't smell through it, or they did?
Or leak.
Right.
Yep. And I never actually brought it up to him throughout our entire relationship because I had an eating disorder when I was younger. everybody always told me that I was too skinny, and it just made me
Right. Angry.
feel like
You couldn't. Yeah.
I couldn't eat. You know, like I got to the point where I like could not get myself to eat because I just felt so sick about how skinny I was. And when you don't eat, your stomach shrinks,
Yeah.
and then you just can't. And
Right.
you know, I don't know how many times I've been told eat a cheeseburger in my life.
Yeah, you've told me that a few different times.
If
that
I had a
people say
quarter
that
or a
too.
dollar, I tell
Yeah.
you what, we would be sitting pretty right now.
For sure. That's crazy.
But we ended up moving, me, him, and he considered him his cousin, pretty much his best friend. They're still friends. All three of us moved. My grandpa had passed away, and they owned a duplex. So my grandma moved down into the downstairs duplex and let us move in upstairs. And
That was back over here downtown, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were there. I mean, I was there, I should say, for almost 3 years, I think. We were there for about a year and a half when I found out I was pregnant. I had never been to Fat Far, still haven't been, but I really, really wanted to go. So I didn't even go out to Lake Martha Days that weekend because they're always on the same weekend. I didn't go because I was like, I'm going to Fat Far on Sunday. Woke up Sunday morning, felt like shit. I was like, what the hell? Went and took a pregnancy test. Sure shit. You ain't going to Fat Far, B.
Oh, no.
You're not going nowhere to get drunk. You are, yep. And then first person I told was my grandma. I ran downstairs bawling. I didn't want to have his kid. I
Right.
didn't want to be with him anymore at that point. And things were getting real bad. So, I mean, he not only was addicted to alcohol, but he was also addicted to attention and sex. And he still to this day is a cheating, like not a faithful, loyal boyfriend. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that, but he hasn't, up until the last time I talked to him, he hadn't been.
Right.
I mean, he had a son when we started dating from another relationship. Her and I didn't get along at first, obviously, but we get along great now. She's amazing. So when he left, when I was pregnant with Emma, he went back with her. Well, I didn't even know that he had left state. I just didn't hear from him for 3 months. And then I heard from his best friend that he was gone. Well, the day that we found out that Emma was a girl, we also had found out that she had hydronephrosis, which is the blockage in her kidney. And we stayed together for like 3 days. He was with me for like 3 days straight. And then we decided on a name, whatever. And then we got in an argument. He told me that I was a cheating whore because he doesn't make girls and he doesn't make fucked up kids. So, yeah. So he had me bring him to his mom's. I did. I went and dropped him off, and then I didn't hear from him again for 3 months. Well, even longer than 3 months. It was this friend that told me that he was back with her, so...
You have someone that's using has multiple addictions and wants to say he can't have a fucked up kid? What?
Mm-hmm. And even, so
What kind
he
of...
went back with his son's mom, and he got married to her, and they have a little girl. And when they found out that she was a girl, he pulled the same thing on her. Yep.
So Father B is a real piece of work.
He's a good one. He's a catch. And I guarantee you he will probably watch this, so...
Well, one thing, too, is I know that he made a decision not to even be in Emma's life.
Correct.
As far as I know, he's still not.
Nope.
And did he give up actual legal rights? Or?
So, Wisconsin has something called a good cause claim. So, and you actually wrote a letter in, I think, when I had to have letters about why I felt that he wasn't a good father. So, because of that... Because I get Badger care and my daughter gets Badger care, child support would go after him. So if child support goes after him, then he technically has rights to her. And gets put on the birth certificate. He's not even on her birth certificate due to this. And usually when you file for a good cause claim, they tell you that it will take 4 to 10 business days to find out the answer. I mailed the paperwork in on a Tuesday. By Monday, I had my answer. That would have been the fourth business day. Yeah. So, and I mean, I had text messages, screenshots that I had printed off of him saying that he didn't want it, get an abortion, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, because of that, they never went after him. He would have had to go about doing it himself, like establishing paternity.
Right.
So when the kids were taken the first time, they have to try to contact the fathers. Him and his mother came to court for for when they decided where they were going to go. The guardian ad litem was speaking to him, and his mom would answer. And the guardian ad litem was like, "You are not the father."
Right, of course.
You need to close your mouth.
Jesus.
But when Emma was born, we knew that we were going to I knew that I was going to have, like a planned birth because of her being, having an issue with her kidneys and needing to be in the NICU right away.
Mm-hmm.
So we were already planning on having her in Marshfield. And when my water broke at 32 weeks, I went to Marshfield right away, and I had to stay there for 2 weeks while they, kept an eye on everything. And I contacted him while I was there, and I had told him, she's going to be born. This is the date she's going to be born. Do you want to be here? Because I can pay for a ticket for you to come round trip, be here for 2 days, and then go back. Like, I ain't trying to start no problems.
Yeah.
I'm just want to know if you want to be here for the birth.
Right.
I can afford to help you come here. He said, that's fucking stupid because we're going to be moving up there soon anyways. So he didn't come. Well, seeing as how Emma needed to be in the NICU, and it was January, so flu season, we were only allowed to have 3 people in to visit her. And my stepsister and my mom stayed with me the entire 2 weeks that I was there. So, of course, they were going to be number 1 on my list. And actually, the NICU was really cool, and I ended up letting my dad and my grandma peek in on her while, without taking anybody else off the list, because I had saved that last spot for his mom.
Right.
Well, I contacted his mom and told her, that we're only allowed 3 people, but I have saved a spot for you since you didn't want to be here. I figured you'd probably want to meet her. Well, because her friend could not go back in the NICU with her and meet her, she wasn't coming. So, and this is the same woman who has cornered my mother in the bar and made threats and telling her that she would give her all the money in the world to bring her granddaughter. Yeah. So, and she's never even met her. She has no idea anything about her.
That's crazy.
And Father B met her once, and she was about 2 months old, and he was talking to her. She just started screaming, and he wouldn't even pick her up. Like, he was just talking to her in the stroller, and she just started crying, and then he was like, whatever, and then just started talking to me, like, trying to get back with me.
What does he think you want if he doesn't even want to be with the kid you just had?
Yeah, and after leaving me when I was pregnant, it was really easy after, like, a couple of weeks because I was not talking to him at all. So by the time his buddy had told me that he moved in with his now wife and whatever, it was just like, well, whatever. Doesn't even matter. I'm already doing it alone right now. I've already done it for 3 months. It's not that big of a deal.
So he's only been there for 1 day of Emma's life?
Not even a full day. Literally 15 minutes.
See, for some reason, I thought that he was around for like a couple weeks or something at one point. But yeah, I guess I was not right on that. Like he's been gone the whole time. Like he chose from day one not to be a part of, and it's in. I always wonder why fathers do it, because my own father did the same thing. I was like 9 months old. I've met him when he left, and I was 9 months old, or I was 9 months old when my mom left him, and I was 13 when I met him one time for a half an hour, and he left and said he was going to come back the next day, and then he never came back. So after he didn't come back, I was like, so he chose the bar? So I don't want to see him again. And then that was it.
Well, and, it's probably a good thing that did happen, because then you weren't, longing for a relationship with him. You just realized right off the bat, this is how he is,
Right.
I mean, and Daddy B has tried contacting me and been like, oh, I want to meet her, blah, 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 blah. Well,
since then?
Too bad. Like, it's already been 7 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Emma knows who he is. I have shown her photos. She knows that she has a brother and sister.
Right.
And I talked to his wife, soon to be ex-wife. Still, we even video chat and let the kids talk. That's because how else are they gonna know that they have a sister up here, or,
right?
So
right, they would be half brothers and sisters, wouldn't they? Yep.
And her brother is older, and she's got a little sister.
And if you don't let them meet later in life, they're gonna end up finding each other and then wondering why the parents never let them.
Well, and I mean, there's no reason for, like, he did the same thing to her that he did to me, and then did it to her again, like, so that, and there's no reason for us to be bitter baby mamas to each other.
No, not because he's making a decision.
Right,
you
exactly.
Didn't make
and
the decision.
It's not the kid's fault. It's not her fault. It's not my fault. And she's really, really similar to me. We have a lot of the same qualities, and so it makes sense why he, went after me, because I was very similar to her.
Right. Well, that's where I think a lot of people get it real kind of mixed up when they're getting mad at the wrong people. If somebody's going around doing something and telling each person a story that's making it so they believe they can be with them, or he doesn't have this or that, it's not their fault if they believed it.
Yeah.
Some people are just really, really good at talking.
I was just talking about that the other day with somebody, like, baby daddy C. If I would hate all the people, well, and baby daddy B, because he was a cheater, I ended up meeting one of the people that I was doing a lot of meth with through him, because he cheated on me with her, and stole things out of her vehicle, and then she contacted the police, and he stole gift cards. So the gift cards that he stole out of the vehicle, he gave to me. I used at Quick Trip that I'm at work. It's when you got me a job. And I was at work, and I got a phone call from the police, and they were like, you were caught on camera using these stolen gift cards. I'm like, stolen gift cards? Like, he told me that he found them. He used to go downtown to that Quick Trip and panhandle. And say that we had a baby at home that needed diapers, a formula, etc. And then as soon as the people would leave, he'd go in and buy a 40.
Oh, jeez.
Or a bottle of liquor, or, whatever. He had stolen, my grandma had bought me 3 different Kindles while we lived with her, or lived upstairs. And he stole all 3.
Pawned or what?
Yep. My Nintendo 64 that I had since I was little. It was actually my parents'.
And those are worth money nowadays.
Yep, gone.
So we might as well get in on him a little bit too. Where did you meet him?
So the girl that baby daddy B had stolen the gift cards from, her and I were friends, for a while, and then I was selling at the time, and I was paying a lot for it. She was like, I got somebody that you can get it from for cheaper, and it's better, blah, blah, blah. do you want to meet him? I'm like, sure, yep. So he came over to my house and I met him. Well, then I started going through him, and I was dating a different guy, and then things got bad with him. We ended up breaking up, and actually we had to end up breaking up like a day or 2 days after we had helped my baby daddy scrap a car. I had just introduced my boyfriend to him, like,
oh wow,
my dude, you know, whatever. And 2 days later, we broke up. And he was like, I went to his house one day to pick up, and I was like, well, sorry you just got to meet him and now he's gone, but and he's like, so does that mean I get to take you out to eat or something sometime? I was like, sure. And then I started cleaning his house for him for weed, and then after a while I just never left.
Right.
So
what?
And the craziest part is his sister dated one of my cousins for many years, and they actually lived right next door to one of my exes while my ex and I were together. So he used to see me at my ex's house, like leaving my ex's house and stuff. But I had no idea who he was.
Right. So he knew your face, but he didn't know you.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was actually living in my cousin's house when I met him.
So did you plan on having a kid with him, or was did that just happen?
That just happened. And actually, I mean, obviously it was after I had lost the kids. And right after I lost the kids, he was arrested like 3 days later. And then he sat in jail for 3 months, and when he got out, he was sober. It was probably about a month that he was sober, and I remember it was coming up on my birthday, and we were at Perkins. It was like 11:30 at night. We were just bored. He's like, let's do some dope. Just one time, whatever. And then we'll go home and sleep and, whatever. I was like, all right, let's go. So we did, and then he just didn't stop. And my probation officer drug tested me. I ended up failing for meth, opiates, and weed.
Yikes. That's a big fail there.
Yep. And I went to jail. I sat 5 days.
On a PO hold?
On a PO hold. And when I got out, he just continued to use still. So, and we were living in Menominee in my uncle's house. My uncle was moving back, and then he was planning on selling the house. So, him and I ended up moving in with my sister in Fairchild, and he would stay there probably once or twice a week. And if he did stay there, every morning that we would wake up, my brother-in-law would be sleeping upstairs and would have to come down because I'd be screaming because if I didn't have sex with him, he'd beat the fuck out of me.
Oh my God.
So, and I mean, that relationship was definitely the most violent relationship.
Physically?
Yes. Baby Daddy B was physical, but not as physical. He was more of a cheater. But once we moved in with my sister, I mean, it was probably only a few weeks before he just stopped coming back. And I was sober maybe a month and a half, and we were broke up. He begged me to talk to him one day, so went out on a back road and met up. And I mean, he was like 3 or 4 days sober at this point, and we ended up making Journey then. So
I see you.
And I mean, we had never used protection
Right.
So definitely had to do with the fact that we were both sober in the moment, because otherwise I don't think there would be a journey.
Right.
So
So it wasn't, but that wasn't planned though. It was a
nope.
moment that happened because, and then Journey was born
Mhm.
out of that moment.
Yep. And
Right.
then I found out I was pregnant. The day I found out I was pregnant, I mean, he relapsed a day or two after.
And you've had a lot of off and on with him, right?
Yes,
Like
it's been 5 years.
right. It hasn't been like you were together and then broke up and now you're co-parenting. Like you've been on and off and on and off.
Yep. I mean, and it was the first time we broke up was like 11 months, 10, 11 months into our relationship. And, you know, then we got back together. Kids got taken. He went to jail. Then he started using, you know, we were supposedly still together. Well, then when I found out I was pregnant with Journey, he wanted a break. So, and then it was just kind of rocky, you know, for a little while. Then I met somebody and was, you know, seeing him for a little while. Ended up falling in his baby daddy's trap again.
Does baby daddy C give you a hard time when you would try to date other people?
Oh, yeah.
Like he would make it really hard for you?
Yep. Oh, yeah. And, I mean, there's been times, like, I was seeing somebody once. He literally went through my Facebook, like, all my Facebook friends. Went through all the dudes and started messaging them.
Oh, no. What?
And
because he didn't know who it was?
Yep.
So he was trying to find out?
Yep. Until one of them was like, you know, they're like, what are you talking about, dude? Until all of a sudden one of them's like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it ended up screwing that up, you know, which obviously all of this was a blessing in disguise because of where I'm at now. But,
right.
I mean, it was so frustrating. When I was seeing the guy, when I was pregnant with Journey, I was staying at my sister's house. I would stay at his house quite a bit, but once in a while we would stay at my sister's. And obviously my baby daddy and I live together at my sister's, so he knows the house and everything,
right.
Everything like that. Well, we were all sitting there one day, me and my sister, him, my brother-in-law, and a couple of his buddies. And all of a sudden, and I mean, it was dark out. All of a sudden I look over, and the guy I was seeing was sitting on the floor right in front of me in the chair. And I looked over at the door, and all I could see was his face. And I was like, shit, John's here. I mean, baby daddy's here. And,
baby daddy C is here.
Baby daddy C is here, yes. He opened that door, and he was like, what the hell is going on? Are you so-and-so? And, like, as soon as I had my legs like this and he was sitting like this, as soon as I seen his face in the door, I, like, whipped my leg up over and put my legs over the side of the chair. And, I mean, obviously,
like
he's
nothing.
seen me. Yeah.
Right.
I just didn't want him to know that that's who that was, you know, because
yeah.
I know how crazy he is. He's been crazy with me. So...
You knew it would definitely be physical, even if you didn't want it to be.
Yep. And so he was like, yeah, and stood up. And actually, no, he didn't even make it up. Baby daddy C comes over and right in the eye.
Oh,
but
man.
He literally left, like, it was, you know, or like when you, like, your skin creases and you get that kind of like a hickey looking thing. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it was. That was it. I mean, he looked like he hit him hard, but dude's head barely even moved when he hit him.
Well, some people can take a punch, though, too.
True, but...
Even if they get rocked, they can take it. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just how some people
He's
are.
not really a big guy. I mean, he's muscular. He works in, does concrete. Did at the time, I should say. So, I mean, was strong, but I definitely was... Baby daddy C is a big guy.
For sure. I agree with that. This guy
was not a very big guy besides being strong, you know? So I definitely wasn't expecting that. Well, then he wasn't going to fight with him inside. He was like, dude, you want to fight me? Let's go outside then.
Right.
Well, he wouldn't come out and fight him. He would fight with me, though.
Of course.
we were arguing, and he told me that he was going to come shoot me and him through the bedroom window. I was pregnant.
The worst thing is you would have to think he might do it. That's the
thing is, I really thought, and especially when he's using,
right.
When he's sober, he's a great guy. Seriously, he's a great guy. He is a good dad. He is a good friend. He's a good, not always a good significant other, but.
Well, I know that you've said that he's really good with Journey when he's sober.
Yep, and he was extremely great with Emma. I mean, they have had such a good bond, So
and at least he accepts a daughter, unlike Baby Daddy B, who won't even accept a daughter.
Which is funny because Baby Daddy B lived around, he lived in this area for a long time before he moved away again. So, and he never even tried to contact me. He obviously, Baby Daddy C was a dealer. He bought weed from him.
But he didn't want nothing to do with the kid.
He would come to our house to buy weed from him. Did he acknowledge
Emma?
No.
Just wouldn't even acknowledge?
Mm-mm.
So do you have, you obviously aren't having communication with A or B.
Correct.
Do you have any still with C?
Yes.
So do you get any opportunity to try or any co-parenting at all with him at all right now?
Well, right now, being that he's incarcerated, no, not really. I do allow her to go see him.
Right.
And such, they're one of the girls that he was in a relationship with that is absolutely not trustworthy, to me at least.
Mm-hmm.
He is, I'm assuming, speaking with her again because the drama has begun again.
Oh, boy.
Now that she's no longer incarcerated. So I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. So, I don't want to stop that bond with them, growing that bond with them, because she is daddy's girl. She loves her dad. But at the same time, he told me that he has no desire to stay sober, because I won't be with him. And
so have you, or I know your aunt and uncles have been a part of guardianship as well with the kids. Have you or them taken any sort of legal action against any of the fathers to make sure that you guys keep those rights and that they can't, like, if he's saying stuff like that, you never know what he could turn and do later. Like, do you guys have that to where they can't have rights to the kids, or do they have any? Or
well, so the older two, my aunt and uncle, have guardianship. I have rights to them. Obviously, Xavier's dad is in Mexico.
Right.
He's not ever coming back.
Yep.
Emma's dad, there isn't really anything against, that he couldn't come back and try. Is he going to? I highly doubt it.
Right. He's the one that for sure I thought would have signed over rights if,
Yeah, yeah. But I have full placement and custody of the youngest right now. That probably isn't going to change. There would have to be substantial change due to his past and everything like that. He started using meth at 12 years old.
Yeah.
He was dealing meth at 12 years old.
Yeah, so, I know he has a really
and he was
past.
sober for 3 years when we started dating, So, and when we broke up and I started using meth, he thought the only way to get back to me was by hanging out with the same people and doing the same thing. So he started doing it, which makes me feel hella guilty sometimes. But at the same time, he's the one that brought the heroin to my house, and,
Is that why CPS came? Because of the father? Because of him?
Well, no. So the reason CPS came the last time was, I was doing heroin with Father C, and we had gone to a bike rally, and obviously the kids were with grandmas, but we did Molly.
Okay.
And I didn't want to lie to my social worker and tell her, just in case. I just wanted to be honest with her And then my plan was that I was just going to tell her that the Molly was heroin based. Well, I sent her a message on Sunday night saying, look, I fucked up, need to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. She showed up in my house Monday morning.
Ready
And
to go,
he wasn't supposed
Just...
to be there. He has no contact, with my oldest two. So he was not supposed to be there. So when she came, we were down in the basement getting high. And Emma came to the door and said, my daddy's here.
So you were just double busted all the way.
No way out. He tried hiding in the basement, but I mean, he can't really hide.
Where are you going to hide?
Yeah. And she went outside to call for backup, and he snuck out the back door. Well, she was standing right by the front door, and when the back door opens, it kind of like that with the front door. So she knew he had gone out the back door. So they had my house, my apartment building surrounded with 12 cops.
Wow.
There was, and
so
they were surrounding like the whole area. Mm-hmm. They were expecting him to run.
Of course.
So, and he was actually hiding in a different apartment well, by that point, but he did come out and got arrested. And yeah, my daughter was actually talking about that. I remember just the other day.
That's
I remember
crazy.
when the cops came and Journey's dad got arrested. I was like, oh my gosh, why do they have to remember these things?
Right, like, does it affect the kids to have, like, that the fathers have substance abuse issues? Do you notice it with stuff like that where they say things like that? Well, or especially maybe with Xavier where he can see, like, he doesn't see Father B, but maybe Father C's issues and understand what's going on.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Xavier knows way more than a 13-year-old should know.
I agree. He's smart. He's definitely smart. He's beyond his years.
Pretty much, for years. And like when CPS started getting involved, he, even the whole time that they were involved, if he ever thought that something that they asked him, like if he answered something that they asked him and it was going to get his mom in trouble, he was not going to talk.
Mm-hmm. I remember you saying that, yeah.
When they went to the school to talk to him, they asked him, does your mommy do drugs? And he goes, no, my mommy only smokes ciggies and weed. I'm like, yep. But he knows, he knew something was going on. He wasn't dumb. He was getting himself up and going to school and getting on the bus by himself. So, and there was always people in the house, and mom was always locked in her room, and but I do think.
How old was he at that point?
8.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do think that he did see a little bit of the abuse from Father B. He would come around a little bit when I was with him. But Father C, he watched a lot of it, a lot of it. And he was involved in a lot of it, when Father C would get mad at me and throw my stuff out, well, their stuff was going out too. So,
that's crazy, yeah.
Like that has affected him to the point where he has no respect for Father C.
And that's totally understandable.
Yeah, and I mean for the longest time, he was my shoulder to cry on when Father C did something to me.
Right.
That's the only person I had.
Does he get angry? Like, is he at that stage where he gets angry about it, or?
Nope, he doesn't get angry about it. He might, but he doesn't show it.
I mean, like at Father C because of his actions.
Well, yes, and he. Like, when he thought that we were getting back together, he's, nope, I don't like him, I don't want him around, nope, and you got to trust your kid. Your kid's intuition is
that's good.
Always right, And actually, my kid's the one that told me to date one I'm dating now, so.
Right. He obviously, one thing is Xavier pays attention. He has good awareness. He sees what goes on around him.
So I feel like he's going to be the kid that knows not to do that stuff. And I've told my son straight up, you come home with one girl one night and another the next, I'm gonna ask you where the girl from last night was, because you're not gonna do women like what was done to me.
Well, and you've been through it where you've been, because baby daddy C wasn't faithful either, right?
No, not at all. Like I said, he had a relationship with another girl for 3 years. And he would lie to both of us, He swears that she didn't know.
Like, was
about
he ever
us.
with both of you at the same time?
Oh, yeah, the whole time. The whole time he was with her, he was still with me. Like, we had never broke up.
So he was really trying to play a game back and forth with you guys.
Yep. Anytime that he wasn't with her, he would just show up at my house, call and be like, come outside.
Right. Of course he did.
I'd be at his house one night and she'd be there the next.
What about, like, are the kids aware of, like, holidays and birthdays and events and that they're not there too? Do they see that?
Emma does a little bit more now that she's in school because other people have a mommy and a daddy. She has a mommy and an auntie and uncle.
Right.
So my aunt is really good at explaining, like, that family dynamics are, it's not always a mom and dad anymore, like, sometimes it's a grandma, sometimes it's an auntie, sometimes it's not even that at all.
They actually understand that?
Well, the way she's broken it down to her, yeah, she's, and she's smart too.
Right.
So she gets it. And like I said, though, I get more time with them all the time,
That's good.
So she knows that, mom's around. She also knows that she knows who her dad is. She's seen pictures of him, she'll ask about him. I don't know the answers ever, but,
Right.
But it doesn't seem to bother her at this point. It probably will as she gets a little older, but hopefully not.
Right.
Especially with my uncle and her having the bond they have. I hope they always keep that no matter what. Because, sometimes that's what I needed as a kid was a father guidance.
Right. Of course, we all needed that at certain points, for sure.
And, obviously I can't blame my parents for anything that I've done, but,
No, I don't blame my parents for anything. My choices are my choices. I did it, not them, If anything, they tried hard to never let me have to experience some of the things I experienced.
Right, yeah.
But I still did and went through it, so that's on me.
Well, yeah, once they're...
Well, and that's one thing with you is, like, I know that you choose not to lie to your kids. I know that you are open about what's going on. And like you said, you allow them to visit in jail, right?
Yep,
you will
prison,
let her...
yeah.
Prison. But, obviously with that, though, have you created any boundaries with that about maybe what he can talk about when you're there? Or how have you set that up so that it protects her while letting her see what's going on?
Well, she doesn't need to know really why he's there. She knows that she thinks daddy's in a timeout. That's how I've explained it to her. She just wants her daddy to come home. He basically the only thing that I've really, he can't be negative. He cannot be negative about, me. She visits him with his mom, so, she also isn't going to let him,
right. No, that's
so
good
that's
that you...
helpful.
Right.
But we do have some conflict with, the relationship thing, and it's not that I want to tell him who and he can and cannot be with, but I want him to be successful. I want him to be a good father. I want him to do things the right way because I know he can. We were hella successful when we first started dating, the first year of our relationship. We did really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just went downhill, and I know he can do better for himself, and it's not even about them having a relationship behind my back anymore. It's about the fact that they are toxic. Their relationship has been based on drugs and adrenaline the entire time. For sure. And, his mom has even told him, there's not just two fish in the sea. Like, there's, because he blames me a lot right now for being lonely and blah, 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 because I'm with somebody else. But
don't play into the guilt, because you can move on with your life. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So
oh, no.
We've all made our choices.
I told him a couple times ago when he called that when I left the guy that he had hit, I regretted it for the longest time. I mean, and he's with someone now that we know, and they're having a baby together now. And when I first found out that, for some reason, it made me extremely emotional because of the fact that I was stupid and went back to him. I mean, obviously all of it happened the way it did,
Right.
for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like the biggest idiot. Like, you had it so good. You were doing, like, what? What were you thinking? But obviously, I wasn't supposed to be with him. But I definitely wasn't supposed to be with baby daddy either.
Right. Right.
I definitely know that now. And I mean, we can work together really well. Like, we work as a team very good. We could be fighting hardcore and go start working on a project together and work just fine. But we are not good in a relationship.
When it comes to actually being emotionally available to each other, you're just not able to communicate and be on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've definitely been
loyal.
in that. Right.
He's
and
not.
if he's gonna, well, right, and if you're trying to not have an open relationship, and in his head it is an open relationship and he can do what he wants,
Right.
that's also gonna cause an issue for you and him, obviously.
Yep.
But I mean, so with the what do you want your kids to understand by showing them the dangers and the negative impact of what things have had, use and stuff has had on baby daddy C right now? I know that they don't know the exact reason, but they're seeing, like, if you don't do the right things, you will be here. Obviously they can see that mom can't always save everything. Like, it's at a young age you think that the parents can save everything, and then there comes a day where you're like, well, mom wasn't able to keep dad home or couldn't save it. Why? Like, there's consequences for your actions.
Right. Yeah. Well, I am honest with them about the fact that, he was bad. He did something bad. And I even was explaining it to them Sunday, 2 days ago, that, like, the difference between jail and prison, even, like, you're naughty and you can go to jail. And if you continue to be naughty, or you do something really naughty,
right,
you can go to prison and you could be there for the rest of your life, and you have to think about your actions. Obviously, she has ADHD, and so we have to we work on, like, her toolbox and using her skills to make the right decisions and stuff. So it's kind of actually nice to a point, because, like, I can use that as an example.
Right.
You have to sit and think about what you're doing before you do it, because otherwise you're just going to end up in trouble. And I try to, they know mom was sick.
Right.
And that I want them to learn from my mistakes so that they can have a happy life and, do well, be successful. So.
No, that's good. By exposing them to it, you're not trying to hide from what's actually going on. And hopefully they'll see that this isn't a way to be and make the right choices. It's a good way to be, I think.
Yeah.
So many people are so scared to show their kids stuff early, and kids are exposed to everything early now anyways. You don't think that they know what a lot of these drugs are by the time they're probably in, like, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, with the internet and TV shows and music. It's in all. A lot of drug stuff isn't even edited out anymore on the radio and things.
Right.
It's in our faces. So
Yep.
it's actually a good thing. Do you have any, like, what advice would you have for parents that are going through something with different baby daddies that have substance abuse? Is there anything you could do to?
You cannot save them. They can only save themselves. Do not take all of your energy trying to save them. Make sure you're okay. If you are 100% okay and your kids are 100% okay, then okay, I understand trying to help. But if they're just bringing you down, you're gonna end up in my situation, you know. There were times when I would go and relapse with baby daddy C, just because I was with him.
Yeah, you get sucked into that.
Yep.
Even if you were doing better when you were with them, and then they did it, you would do it. Your use would coincide with their use.
Yep. And I mean, until you are strong enough to the point where you can say, like, I will not ever touch it again, then it's awful hard. If you are an addict yourself, especially.
I don't know if addicts can. I mean, you have to be. Oh man, to be able to say that as someone that's used heavily in the past is a really hard thing to do.
Yep.
If you put it in front of a lot of people, I don't know. There's some that would say no and could walk away, but there's also a heavy group that wouldn't be able to,
right.
and they would relapse.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's very.
I am like that with heroin. You know, I knew somebody that was coming to a friend's house that was selling heroin for a while, and I was like, do not ever let me be there at your house when this person is there. Do not ever let them offer it to me. Do not ever even let them tell me that they have it. Nothing, because I worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Meth, my doctor and I had talked, I think we talked about this before, that by me using Adderall and then meth, I was trying to self-medicate for not being diagnosed as ADHD my whole life. So, you know, I didn't even realize that it was a problem until it was a problem.
For sure. That's actually how it was for me when I had pause. I didn't even know about it until I had it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So has this going through all of these things, has it changed how you see parenting, like previously to maybe before having kids to now? I know you had kids young, but you're still pretty young, so
right.
You know, before and then now going through this, how did you see parenting then and now?
I cherish my time with my kids a hell of a lot more now than I ever did. I mean, and I've always loved my kids. I've always cherished my time with them, but not the way I do it now. You know,
right.
Like I wasn't always, you know, 100% focused on my kids when they were around all the time, you know, and I don't know that if it was just overwhelming as a parent or a single parent or what that made me use, you know, that and I guess the breakups. Those are never good for addiction, but
yeah, that heavy emotional toll is really,
like, thinking back at what I have put my kids through, and I mean, I have pictures of my kids during that time, and they don't look like themselves at all.
Right.
I try not to look back on those because I really, really have a hard time with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I strive every single day to make sure that I never put my kids through that again.
But it's also good to look back and remember that you don't want to ever have your kids look like that again. You know, you never want to see anything like that, like progress from here, you know, and just keep going forward.
I have a toolbox that I made when I was in treatment court.
I remember you talking about that, yeah.
It's helpful. It's really helpful when you're really struggling and you can go back and be like, oh my God, okay, no, I'm good.
That is actually good. What did you say was all in that again?
In my toolbox?
Yeah.
So I have some pictures of my kids. I have all the paperwork from CPS, especially the discovery, you know, where they explain everything that happened up to my kids being taken. My family treatment court certificates, everything that I've done good, all the programs that I've completed, and it's anything from like police reports, pictures, anything like that shows the negative, and then your accomplishments, you know, so that you can look at it and be like, this is where I was, this is where I am now. Like,
yeah. Do you still add to it at all, or is it just you made it, so you're continuing to add to it as you go?
Yep. And I started with just a box that was about that deep, and I'm into like a tote now. So
Nice. That's definitely, you're growing your good vibes box. Do something that you call it? What do you
I call it
it?
my toolbox.
That's just the toolbox?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
But and it's something too that if I ever want to sit down with my kids and be like, look, this is what mom, this is what it was really like. Okay, this is what mom did. I want to be honest with you, and this is what I don't ever want you to do.
Right.
Do as mom says, not as she does.
No, and it's good that they're seeing it and that you've created boundaries with them and you're able to show them consequences of what real life is. So, no, that is really good. But, I mean, one thing for you is I know that you've been through a lot and you've always find a way to come out smiling and want to help others. You know, and you're open to discuss things. You're not ashamed or afraid of what's happened to you. So, I mean, I think that's really awesome of you to be open like that.
Well, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't from my past. I learned the things that I learned and met the people I met. And, like I said, everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have the kids that I have. I wouldn't be with the person I'm with. All of it. Like, everything that's ever happened in my life has brought me here. So
and that, sometimes that's one of the hard things about going through addiction and things is you go through a hard time and you have this thing in your past or that you may not be so proud of, but it also makes you who you are. Like, I look at myself too and who I'm with and different things, and I wouldn't know her or be where I am without having gone through what I did. So it's not a horrible thing, it's a lesson. And you have to learn and move forward and not allow yourself to go backwards again. That's all.
Yep. And that's another reason why I am so open. Another reason why I'm so open is because if my story helps one person, then my life is complete. I've impacted somebody, even if it's but the slightest bit, then I feel like I've done something with my life.
Right.
And I mean, people always say learn from my mistakes. I would love to teach people to learn from my mistakes because I would never wish what I went through on anyone. I would never wish addiction on anyone,
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
It's hard.
With my stomach and stuff, I wouldn't want people to have to go through it.
And people like my dad's like, it's all in your head. Addiction's not real, blah, 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 blah. He's like, I've done all the drugs in the world and I'm not addicted. I'm like, you can't stop smoking cigarettes. True. You can't stop drinking Coca-Cola. You can't stay off your phone. So don't tell me that there's no such thing as addiction.
How many, does he smoke like a pack a day?
Oh, at least.
So he's
yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, Amos was on here talking about his cigarettes and that he ended up getting addicted to them too, and he never thought that was the first time he realized what addiction was.
Yep. Yeah, I tell anybody that wants to know what addiction feels like that is not an addict or they think they're not an addict, lock your phone in a different room for an entire week, and you'll know exactly what it feels like to be an addict.
A lot of people wouldn't get through a day.
Yeah, no kidding.
Even a few hours, probably.
Right, exactly.
The phone is a heavy mental addiction for a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish that they would have never come out with, technology that they have, honestly, because life was so much better.
That's funny because we said that on episode 7 too, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy
technology is messing up stuff.
You used to be able to find your friends by finding their bikes in the yard. Now, oh my gosh.
For sure. So, I mean, what kind of triggers do you have? What kind of things trigger you?
Other people using,
Is there anything with, the kids or the fathers or anything that causes you to?
So, not anymore.
No.
But, I feel like part of the reason why I tried heroin and did heroin was just being overwhelmed with my children because, I didn't have my kids for almost 2 years. And then I got Emma back, and then I had Journey. And then Xavier wasn't supposed to come home until the end of the school year, but COVID hit, so he came home. I had my parents, my mom and stepdad. Then I moved into my apartment, and it was just me and my kids. And I think I couldn't advocate for myself at that point. I didn't know how to talk and tell people what I needed. So I just turned to what I knew, but now I don't feel like that, with my kids at all anymore. But, that's probably because of going through that with them, Sometimes you don't realize what you got till it's gone kind of thing,
For sure.
Not anymore with their dads either because, the arguing and the threats and the negative comments or picking at flaws, etc., isn't there anymore, really. So
that's what I was wondering, is if you're still getting any of that from...
No,
so you're not at all.
I was a little bit before I told him that that this is not going to happen.
Right.
But not nearly as much as it used to, just because I was sober for so long by myself. I had to learn to be happy and be happy with my kids and, without him around. So that helped a lot.
So your main trigger is just other people using?
Yes.
Gotcha.
But, like I said, I don't struggle with meth because, I am now prescribed medication for my ADHD.
Right.
So I don't think about, I need to go get meth.
So just by having that, a prescription that takes care of that, you don't have cravings or anything like that? You're over it, to where you don't think about it? Because that's one of the main things, is when you have thoughts about it or cravings, is when people have struggles.
And that's exactly it too, is up until I quit going to the daily clinic for my Suboxone and got in with the doctor, I craved it like a mother, because I was
it a fatigue thing, though, where you were just dead all the time, had no energy?
And being on antidepressants as well, you don't feel emotion as much.
Right.
So then you just want to block it all out entirely,
Right.
So, but I don't struggle with that anymore, so.
That's good. So, all right. So think about your life with substance, your choices, the people you've been around, and all the things you've done. I'll start, but go ahead. Think of something that you've done that you'll always remember with using addiction, substance, that you're never going to forget. So I'll give you a minute. For me, it actually is cooking oxy pills. I will never forget, when I cutting them up, going through all that process of, cooking them, the smell, how they look, just that taste in your mouth when you swallow them, that dark brown burnt taste. It's just, and I know two other people that also say that it's something that will always stick in their mind, is something. And one person even said something like, oh, when those little brown morsels come out of the oven, happiness is around the corner. But I say that just so you can understand what an addict's mind is. That's where the addict would think. But really, what's true is that's a dangerous game you're playing just around the corner.
Right.
So for me, it's, I won't forget that, because my stomach issue came from that, from the changes in cooking them. Things like that. Now, you don't have to say anything quite like that, but I'm just curious.
Actually,
is there anything you won't forget?
I can think of two things, actually. One, smoking Percocet. The taste, it tastes like if you were to take a candy cigarette and light the end of it and then eat it. That's what it tastes like to me.
Is that you mean kind of like a burnt marshmallow kind of taste?
Yep.
Or
Yep, it's like burnt marshmallow, but it's more I used to, when I was a kid, I would light the end of a candy cigarette, pretend I was smoking it, and then I would eat it. So then it's not exactly marshmallow, it's just candy cigarette, So that, and then Hot Rails. I remember the first time I ever seen somebody do a hot rail, and I was amazed. I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life. I wanted to try it right now. And, I mean, we used to have, one of the places that I used to hang out at before the kids got taken, we had a framed mirror, and we had taken a hand soap from, like, Walmart, the different animal hand soap containers that they have. We had a monkey, and it was attached to the mirror. It had tubes coming from it. It was our meth monkey, and we would call hot rails hot trail mix. So we would sit there and do hot trail mix or have hot trail mix all night long with the meth monkey.
And that, wow. That, yeah, I can see where you'd remember that. That's like a whole experience process that you went through there.
That's something I definitely will never forget. And the first time even doing a hot rail, like just the adrenaline and the
right.
And like the excitement of, oh my God, I just did it, you know, that kind of thing. And when you're an addict, you don't think that anything wrong with that.
Well, it's crazy what, like, when you realize that your high lasts for like 20 minutes to 2 hours usually, it's really crazy what we put ourselves through just to do that, you know. And a lot of the things people do don't even last 20 minutes these days. They're just quick, and then you got to go find it again, it again. So you're just constantly going through this cycle. You know.
And that's how so many people hit rock bottom, because you literally will do anything. I mean, you'd give your house for a fucking hit of heroin, you know?
Right. When you are going through withdrawal, unfortunately, you will do whatever to get relief. And seeing, it's weird because some of the choices that are made, though, you have to know that you're going to get relief, but it's going to be hell afterwards. And that's why it's so...
But you know that, but you don't care.
That's why it's so crazy, is you just... It's one fix at a time. Like, I get this one, I'll get that one later, I'll get that one later. And it's just an endless cycle. It's crazy. So... Sam, is there anything else that you want to end with today? Anything you want to say? Any overall advice for people, families, anybody out there?
Focus on you. Make sure that you are good always. You have to come first. You have to come before your kids too. You have to come before everybody, because unless you are good and solid, your kids are not going to be solid. Your relationship is not going to be solid. You have to be, strong, and make sure that you keep yourself first. Right. As soon as you become submissive to somebody else, it's over.
That is really good advice.
Well, thank you.
No, because if you're not stable and you're trying to save everyone else and help everyone else, you're just slowly bringing yourself down further. So that is good advice.
Don't become submissive to anyone.
Right. So thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you come and are open to discussions about almost anything. So it's awesome to have these conversations. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Stay happy, stay humble, stay healthy, make good choices for you and those around you. Awesome.